Meanwhile, 17 light years from anywhere, someone still has to reboot the coffee maker, even when cargo bay sensors are tracking eggs that corporate won't fully explain. Welcome, friend. You've wandered into another quiet corner of worlds made of legend. Tonight, you're stepping into the maintenance bay of the USCSS Torrens, a commercial cargo vessel drifting through deep space, where your job is to keep computer systems running smoothly through the long, quiet hours of night shift. Here, while other ships in the fleet are dealing with containment breaches and emergency protocols, you're mainly concerned with whether Server 12's cooling fan will make it through another shift without needing replacement. So before you settle in for this shift with me, take a moment to like this video and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more tales from the ordinary side of extraordinary places. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight, whether you're on Earth or imagining yourself among the stars. Now get comfortable. Let the quiet hum of life support surround you and allow the small steady rhythms of deep space maintenance to guide you gently toward rest. The corridor lights are dimmed for night cycle when you make your way from crew quarters to the maintenance bay. Meanwhile, somewhere on the USCSS Torrens, your sister ship in the fleet, emergency protocols are probably being implemented and incident reports are being filed. But here on the Torrens, at 400 hours ship time, your primary concern is much simpler. Remembering your access code before you're fully awake. The ship measures time in Earth standard hours, even though you're currently 17 light years from home, traveling at 0.1 C through empty space that has never known the concept of day or night. Your body hasn't quite accepted this mathematical approach to timekeeping. Your internal clock insists it's the middle of the night, regardless of what the digital displays claim. Your maintenance jumpsuit hangs in your locker, clean and pressed by the automated laundry system that runs constantly in the lower decks. The fabric is regulation blue-grey, with your name embroidered on the left breast pocket. J. Chen Computer Systems Maintenance. The jumpsuit smells faintly of the industrial detergent that all ship clothing carries, mixed with the particular scent of recycled air that you've learned to think of as normal. You adjust the collar and smooth down the front, catching your reflection in the polished metal of the locker door. Just another shift aboard the Torrens. Just another rotation in the endless rhythm of deep space commerce. The ship is 3 years into a 5-year journey, hauling 40,000 tons of cargo from Gateway Station to the colony worlds in the Zeta Reticuli system. Most of it is mining equipment and agricultural supplies. Some of it, stored in the environmentally controlled Bay 3, requires special biosecurity protocols that are above your pay grade. You've heard the rumours, of course. Everyone has. The company is transporting xenobiological specimens for research purposes. Eggs, specifically. The same kind that apparently caused problems on the Cronus last month, but your eggs are staying in their containment units, behaving exactly as frozen biological samples should behave, which is to say, doing absolutely nothing interesting. The time clock is a simple biometric scanner mounted next to the maintenance bay entrance. You place your palm against the reader, feeling the warm tingle as it verifies your identity and records your shift start. The display shows 04 SST ship standard time in glowing green numbers that are too bright for this hour of the morning. Marcus, the previous shift's maintenance tech, looks up from his terminal with the weary expression of someone who's been staring at diagnostic screens for 8 hours. His coffee cup sits empty beside him, surrounded by the small debris of a long shift, printouts of system logs, a half-eaten protein bar, and a small pile of stylus caps that have been fidgeted with and discarded. Quiet shift, he says, his voice carrying that particular flatness that comes from too much time in recycled air. Had to reboot the secondary cooling system in Section 7, but it's holding steady now. Everything else is green. He pauses, then adds with a slight smirk, "Oh, and Bay 3 is still boring, Power consumption steady, temperature stable, eggs sitting there being eggs. The science officer checked the readings twice, just to have something to do. You nod, already settling into the familiar rhythm of transition. Coffee maker still working? Fixed it around 0200, Marcus says, with the pride of someone who solved a genuine crisis. Turns out you just have to kick the side panel in exactly the right spot. Very technical procedure. The maintenance bay at 400 hours feels different than it does during day cycle. More intimate, more yours. The hum of the ship's systems creates a steady baseline that you can feel through the deck plates, and the slight vibration of the FTL engines cycling through their diagnostic routines provides a constant reminder that you're moving through space at speeds that would have been impossible just a few generations ago. Marcus gathers his things, his personal tablet, a worn paperback novel, the empty coffee cup, and heads for the exit. Sleep well, you tell him. You too when your turn comes, he replies, and the door hisses shut behind him. Suddenly the bay is yours, wrapped in that particular silence that comes from being the only person awake in this section of the ship. The 16 other crew members are sleeping in their quarters, following the standard rotation that keeps the Torrens running smoothly through its years-long journey. You take a moment to walk through your visual checklist, confirming that all the primary systems are showing green on the main diagnostic board. The wall of monitors displays information about every critical system on the ship: life support, navigation, propulsion, communication, cargo management. Each screen shows a different aspect of the ship's health, creating a visual symphony of data that you've learned to read like music. The maintenance bay is your small kingdom for the next 8 hours, and there's something deeply satisfying about knowing that every system has its monitor, every subsystem has its redundancy, every potential failure has its warning indicator. Meanwhile, on the Cronus, they're probably dealing with a very different kind of night. But that's their problem. Your screens show green, your coffee maker works, and your shift is just beginning. Damn, the Torrens doesn't move through space silently the way movies suggest. Instead, it's filled with a complex symphony of mechanical sounds that create the background texture of life aboard a commercial starship. The environmental systems cycle on and off with clockwork precision, their air handlers humming a steady bass note that you feel as much as hear through the deck plates. Meanwhile, somewhere in corporate headquarters on Earth, months of signal delay away, executives are probably reviewing incident reports from the Cronus, adjusting insurance policies, and debating whether transporting xenobiological specimens is worth the liability. Here on your ship, the most pressing acoustic concern is whether that slight whistle in the ventilation system is new, or if you're just noticing it because the night is so quiet. The FTL engines maintain their constant quantum fluctuation in the aft section, a sound like distant thunder that never quite resolves into actual noise but instead remains on the edge of perception. You've learned that this particular frequency means the engines are running optimally. Any variation would trigger your immediate attention. The computer systems add their own voice to the chorus. Cooling fans spin at exactly 3000 RPM, creating white noise that most people never consciously register, but that becomes deeply familiar when you work the night shift. Hard drives click and whir as they access data, their mechanical components still necessary for the massive storage requirements of interstellar navigation and cargo management. The hull itself contributes its own sounds, subtle groans and creaks as the superstructure responds to the ship's acceleration and the temperature differentials between the heated interior and the near absolute zero of space outside. These sounds are normal, predictable, part of the ship's personality that you've learned to recognize over 18 months of service. You settle into your workstation, the ergonomic chair hissing slightly as it adjusts to your weight. The primary diagnostic terminal boots up with a soft chime, displaying the Wayland-Yutani corporate logo before cycling through to the system status screens. Everything is coded green, indicating nominal operation across all major systems. The ship's computer, officially designated MUTHUR 6000, but universally called Mother by the crew, maintains constant surveillance over every aspect of the Torrens operation. Unlike the more advanced synthetic intelligence systems used on military vessels, Mother is relatively simple, designed primarily for navigation, life support management, and cargo monitoring. You check your watch, noting that it's 04.17 SST. Time moves differently during the night shift in space, sometimes crawling with the weight of isolation, sometimes flying past in bursts of focused maintenance work. But mostly, it flows steadily and predictably, each minute containing more awareness than a whole day of ordinary life, because there's so little else to distract your attention. The automatic door to the main corridor slides open and closed occasionally, triggered by pressure changes as the environmental system adjusts the ship's atmosphere. The Torrens is old enough that its environmental control isn't perfectly sealed. There are always minor leaks, always small adjustments needed to maintain optimal pressure throughout the vessel. You review the night's maintenance schedule displayed on your secondary monitor. It's a standard rotation. Run diagnostics on the navigation system, verify backup power systems, check environmental sensors, perform routine maintenance on the server racks, monitor cargo bay conditions, update software patches, test emergency protocols. Nothing unusual, nothing exciting, exactly the kind of shift that lets you settle into a comfortable rhythm, the kind of shift where the most dramatic event will probably be discovering that someone left the break room microwave dirty again. Bay 3's monitoring systems show their usual stable readings, temperature holding at 4 degrees C, atmospheric containment active, power consumption within normal parameters for biological cold storage. These xenomorph eggs sitting in their containment units are doing exactly what well-frozen biological samples should do, absolutely nothing worth noting. Unlike whatever happened on the Cronus, apparently. Every commercial starship has its own particular scent profile, created by the unique combination of systems, materials, and the specific chemical processes used to maintain breathable atmosphere. The Torrens smells like industrial lubricant mixed with the faint metallic tang that comes from constantly recycled air, underlaid with something that might be called old ship, the accumulated scents of decades of operation that have soaked into every surface. Meanwhile, the Cronus probably smells like emergency decontamination protocols and whatever cleaning agents they use after a biosecurity incident. You're grateful that your ship maintains its normal, boring smell of recycled air and coffee. The environmental system processes the ship's atmosphere every 4 hours, scrubbing out carbon dioxide and replenishing oxygen from stored tanks in the lower decks. The scrubbers use a chemical process that leaves a faint smell of ozone in the air, noticeable but not unpleasant. It's the smell of safety, of systems working properly to keep you alive in an environment that would kill you in minutes without technological intervention. The maintenance bay itself carries additional scents, the warm electronic smell of running computers, the particular odour of solder and circuit boards, the faint vanilla-like scent of thermal paste used to keep processors cool. There's also coffee, always coffee, brewed in the small maker that's been bolted to the wall in violation of about 17 different regulations. You measure out the coffee grounds from your personal stash, real coffee from Earth, not the synthetic substitute. The container is labelled Agricultural Samples, Columbia region, quietly liberated from a shipment that will never miss one small bag. One of the unwritten perks of maintenance work is access to cargo holds, and the ability to occasionally borrow items that corporate will never notice are gone. The coffee maker gurgles and hisses as it works, and you find yourself thinking about the Cronus. You've heard fragments of the story through the crew rumour mill, something about a containment breach, emergency protocols, at least one casualty. The details are classified, but the fact that it happened at all has made everyone on the Torrens a little more aware of what's sitting in Bay 3. Not worried exactly, just aware. The science officer has been checking Bay 3's readings more frequently than usual. The captain has been receiving more encrypted communications from corporate, and everyone has been very careful to emphasize that the Torrens containment protocols are working perfectly, that your eggs are stable, that there's no cause for concern. Which is probably true. Your monitors show nothing but green. The eggs are frozen, the containment is intact, and you're just a maintenance tech who monitors computer systems. Today you can detect the faint smell of the cleaning solution that the automated maintenance drones use during their night cycle rounds. It's a mild antiseptic, designed to kill bacteria without leaving toxic residues. The smell reminds you that even in deep space, cleanliness and hygiene remain constant concerns. The air pressure changes slightly as you move through your pre-shift routine, your ears popping gently. Each cargo bay and critical area can be isolated independently, a safety feature that becomes essential when transporting materials that require containment. The coffee is ready. You pour it into your personal mug, the one with the faded logo of the Maintenance Technicians Union, and take that first perfect sip. Hot, bitter, exactly what you need. Bay 3's environmental systems maintain their steady hum in the background, keeping the xenomorph eggs at exactly 4 degrees C, in exactly the right atmospheric conditions, sealed behind exactly the kind of containment that apparently wasn't quite sufficient on the Cronus. But that's their problem. Your coffee is hot, your systems show green, and your eggs are staying frozen. The diagnostic terminal displays its ready prompt, cursor blinking patiently as it waits for your input. Meanwhile, the Cronus's maintenance staff is probably running very different diagnostics, trying to determine what failed, how the containment breach occurred, whether their monitoring systems gave adequate warning. You're grateful that your diagnostic run will be routine and boring. You begin with the standard system check, typing commands that have become automatic after hundreds of shifts. The keyboard is mechanical, chosen for reliability over comfort, and each keystroke produces a satisfying click that echoes softly in the quiet maintenance bay. Run Diagnostic Suite Alpha systems, all priority, standard logging, enabled. The computer acknowledges your command with a soft beep, and the diagnostic routines begin their work. On the main display wall, status indicators start cycling through their checks. Life support first, then propulsion, then navigation, then cargo management. Each system reports back within seconds, displaying green status codes that indicate nominal operation. The life support diagnostics are always first because they're always most critical. The readout shows oxygen levels at 20.9%, CO2 at 0.04%, nitrogen at 78%, with trace gases making up the remainder, almost exactly Earth standard atmosphere. Temperature is 24 degrees throughout the inhabited sections, with cargo bays maintained according to their specific requirements. Humidity is 45%, right in the optimal comfort range. The atmospheric pressure reads 101.3 kPa, one standard atmosphere, maintained by pumps that constantly adjust for the tiny leaks that are inevitable in any vessel this old. The Torrens was commissioned 32 years ago, and despite regular refits and updates, she shows her age in small ways. Nothing dangerous, just the kind of minor inefficiencies that come with decades of operation. You make notes as you work, documenting each check in the maintenance log that will be reviewed by the day shift supervisor. Good documentation is essential in space. When something goes wrong, the maintenance logs often provide the first clues about what failed and why. The propulsion systems report green across the board. The FTL engines are currently in cruise mode, maintaining 0.1 C through space-time manipulation that you don't fully understand and don't need to. The engineering team handles the theoretical physics. You handle the computer systems that monitor and control the hardware. The diagnostic routine checks fuel reserves, 87% capacity, engine temperature, nominal, quantum field stability within tolerance, and thrust vector control, responsive and accurate. The Torrens is equipped with backup chemical rockets for emergency maneuvering, and these show ready status with fuel tanks at 94% capacity. Navigation systems are perhaps the most critical after life support. The stellar positioning arrays are locked onto 247 reference stars, providing redundant location data that allows the ship to know its position in space to within a few thousand kilometers. For a vessel traveling at 30,000 kilometers per second, that level of precision is just barely adequate. The diagnostic checks the astrogation computer, the trajectory calculations, the collision avoidance systems, and the communications array. Everything shows green. The Torrens knows where it is, where it's going, and how to get there without hitting anything or losing contact with human civilization. The cargo management systems come next in the diagnostic sequence. Cargo Bay 1 shows standard temperature and pressure, containing 15,000 tons of mining equipment destined for colony infrastructure. Cargo Bay 2 holds agricultural supplies and prefabricated housing sections, all in standard environmental conditions. Nothing unusual there. Bay 3 maintains its independent environmental system, sealed off from the rest of the ship. Temperature, 4 degrees C. Atmosphere, nitrogen with trace oxygen, higher pressure than standard. The biosecurity protocols are active, the containment units show green status indicators, and the power consumption is exactly what you'd expect for maintaining frozen biological samples. The eggs are fine. They've been fine. They'll continue being fine. The diagnostic completes its first pass, displaying a summary screen that shows all systems operational. Total runtime, 247 seconds. Everything green, everything nominal, everything exactly as it should be. You save the diagnostic log with a note: all systems nominal, Bay 3 containment stable, no anomalies detected. The same note you've been adding to logs for months now, because nothing interesting ever happens aboard the Torrens, which is exactly how you prefer it. The coffee is cooling now, and you take another long sip while reviewing the overnight communication logs. The Torrens maintains constant contact with the Wayland-Yutani communication network, receiving and transmitting data in compressed bursts every few hours. Most of it is routine: navigational updates, corporate bulletins, personal messages for crew members. But tonight, there are also several priority communications flagged for command personnel, and you notice they're all related to revised biosecurity protocols following the incident on the Cronus. Meanwhile, corporate lawyers are probably very busy right now, drafting liability statements and revising insurance policies. Your job is significantly simpler. Drink coffee and make sure your computer systems keep running. You can't read the encrypted command-level messages, but you can see their subject headers: Biosecurity Protocol Update, Containment Review Requirements, Incident Response Procedures. The Cronus situation has made corporate nervous, which means more paperwork for everyone. The coffee ritual is one of the few truly personal moments in your shift. You've brought your own mug from Earth, a ceramic piece with the Maintenance Union logo that's travelled light years from home. It's chipped now, showing wear from years of use, but it's yours in a way that nothing else on this ship quite is. While the ship carries on its automated routines and the frozen eggs sit silently in Bay 3's containment, you're having coffee at 04:30 in the morning, 17 light years from anywhere, doing the same job you could be doing on Earth, except with slightly more interesting views out the windows. The work itself is meditative in its routine. You pull up the server monitoring dashboards, checking that all system temperatures are within normal ranges, that memory utilization isn't spiking unexpectedly, that network traffic patterns are following their usual rhythms. Server 12's cooling fan is making that slightly off-pitch noise again. Not failing, not yet, but developing a character that suggests the bearing might be wearing. You make a note to order a replacement fan on the next supply drone. Preventive maintenance is always easier than emergency repairs. The server room requires physical inspection, so you grab your tablets and toolkit and head into the computer core. The room is cooler than the rest of the ship, maintained at 89 degrees to keep the electronics happy. The air smells strongly of ozone and plastic, and the white noise of cooling fans is louder here, almost loud enough to drown out the background hum of the ship's systems. You run your hand along Server 12's chassis, feeling the vibration of that slightly irregular fan. Not critical yet, maybe another month or two before it needs replacement, but worth monitoring, worth documenting, worth staying aware of. This is the actual work of deep space maintenance, not dramatic saves or crisis management, but careful attention to small details that might become large problems if ignored. It's boring work in the best possible way. Bay 3's monitoring systems remain perfectly stable, as they have for the entire journey. The eggs continue their frozen sleep, undisturbed and undisturbing. Whatever happened on the Cronus is not happening here. You return to the maintenance bay, finish your coffee, and begin the next phase of your routine checks. The night continues its slow, predictable progression, and you continue your careful attention to systems that are working exactly as they should, which is, honestly, perfect. The maintenance bay has 3 main display walls, each showing different aspects of the ship's operations. The left wall displays environmental data, air quality, temperature, pressure, and humidity readings from every section of the vessel. The center wall shows propulsion and navigation information, speed, trajectory, fuel consumption, and stellar positioning. The right wall monitors cargo management and communications. Meanwhile, the Cronus probably has technicians staring at similar displays, trying to reconstruct the timeline of their containment failure. You're grateful that your screens continue showing nothing but peaceful green indicators. You've learned to read these displays holistically, taking in all the information at once, rather than focusing on individual data points. It's like learning to read music. At first you see individual notes, but eventually you perceive the entire composition simultaneously. Tonight, the displays show the peaceful monotony of routine space travel. No alarms, no warnings, no anomalies. Just the steady progress of a commercial cargo vessel moving through the void at a fraction of the speed of light, exactly as designed, exactly as predicted. The environmental data shows interesting patterns if you know how to read them. The crew quarters show decreased activity during night cycle, lower temperature readings because people generate less heat while sleeping, more stable CO2 levels because metabolic rates slow during sleep. The galley shows a slight temperature increase around 0600 SST as the automated systems begin preparing breakfast for the day shift crew. The cargo bays maintain their independent atmospheres, each one precisely controlled according to the requirements of its contents. Bay 1 is warm and dry, optimal for mining equipment that might corrode in humid conditions. Bay 2 is cool and slightly humid, protecting the agricultural supplies from degradation. Bay 3 maintains its sealed environment, cold, high pressure, with atmosphere circulation patterns that suggest active biological containment. The power consumption is elevated compared to the other bays, but that's expected for maintaining precise environmental controls around frozen xenobiological specimens. You've read the basic briefing materials about the cargo. They're eggs, xenomorph eggs, to use the technical term. Parasitic organisms with a complex life cycle discovered on one of the colony worlds and now being transported for research purposes. Corporate has been deliberately vague about the specifics, but the basic facts are clear enough. The eggs need to stay frozen, the containment needs to stay sealed, and as long as both those conditions are met, there's no danger. The Cronus's problem, from what you've gathered through rumour and incomplete information, seems to have involved a temperature fluctuation that allowed partial thawing. The official reports are classified, but the crew gossip suggests someone made a mistake with the environmental controls. Your environmental controls are working perfectly. The eggs are at exactly 400 degrees C. The containment is sealed. The monitoring systems show no anomalies whatsoever. You pull up the maintenance history for Bay 3's systems, scrolling through months of logged data. The environmental controls have been running continuously since the Torrens departed Gateway Station, maintaining stable conditions with minimal variation. Every check shows green. Every reading is nominal. It's almost boring how well the containment is working, which is exactly how it should be. The communications display shows standard traffic, scheduled status updates to corporate headquarters, routine navigational data exchanges with other vessels in the sector, compressed data bursts containing crew personal messages. The lag time to Earth is currently 47 hours one way, meaning that any conversation happens in extreme slow motion. You notice several corporate bulletins have been updated since your last shift. New biosecurity training requirements, revised containment protocols for xenobiological materials, enhanced monitoring recommendations. All of it following the Cronus incident, corporate scrambling to update policies and cover their legal exposure. You'll need to complete the updated training module at some point, though you suspect it will mostly tell you what you already know. Keep the eggs frozen, keep the containment sealed, don't open Bay 3 without proper authorization and protective equipment. Not that you have any desire to open Bay 3, the science officer handles cargo inspections. You handle computer systems. It's a clean division of responsibility that works well for everyone. The monitoring continues, data flowing across the screens in steady, predictable patterns. The ship maintains its course, the systems maintain their functions, and you maintain your vigilance. Everything is functioning properly. All systems are green, and your shift is progressing exactly as shifts are supposed to progress. Quietly, routinely, without incident. Every shift includes a physical walkthrough of the key systems, verifying that the electronic monitoring is accurately reflecting reality. Meanwhile, the Cronus' crew is probably doing very thorough physical inspections right now, checking every seal and sensor twice. You're just doing your normal rounds, checking that boring continues to be boring. Sensors can fail, displays can lie, but physical inspection reveals truth. You grab your toolkit, a hard case containing specialized instruments for computer maintenance, and begin your rounds. The primary server room is first on the checklist. The door unseals with a hydraulic hiss, revealing rows of server racks stretching the length of the compartment. The temperature hits you immediately, several degrees cooler than the general ship environment, optimized for electronics rather than human comfort. The server room smells of plastic and ozone, with an undertone of the thermal paste used to keep processors from overheating. The white noise of cooling fans is louder here, creating a sound environment that's paradoxically restful in its consistency. You've learned to find the fan noise soothing, a sign that the thermal management systems are working properly. You begin your inspection at Rack 1, checking the indicator lights and verifying that the cooling fans are running smoothly. Each server has its own diagnostic display showing processor temperature, memory utilization, storage capacity, and network connectivity. Everything reads green on the first rack. The cable management in the server room is immaculate. Your predecessor installed it with obsessive attention to detail, organizing every data cable and power cable with perfect precision. The result is aesthetically pleasing and functionally superior, making maintenance work significantly easier. You move methodically through the racks, checking each one, making notes on your tablet about which units are approaching their maintenance intervals. Server 7 needs its backup battery replaced soon. Server 12's cooling fan is still making that slightly off-pitch noise. Server 15 has slightly elevated processor temperatures, probably indicating that its thermal paste needs refreshing. The backup power systems occupy their own section of the server room, massive battery banks that can keep critical systems running for up to 72 hours if the main power fails. You test each battery's voltage and capacity, confirming that they're maintaining their charge properly. The batteries are new, replaced 6 months ago during the last major maintenance cycle, and they show excellent health indicators. The server room inspection takes 43 minutes, and you emerge satisfied that everything is functioning properly. The electronic monitoring systems are accurately representing the reality of the hardware, which means you can trust your displays. Next is the Environmental Control Center, the heart of the ship's life support systems. This room is warmer, filled with the sound of air circulation and the complex chemistry happening in the atmospheric scrubbers. The scrubbers are fascinating pieces of technology, using catalytic reactions to convert carbon dioxide back into oxygen while removing trace contaminants from the air. You check the scrubber efficiency ratings, currently running at 97.3%, well above the minimum acceptable threshold of 95%. The chemical consumption rates are normal, suggesting that the crew's metabolic output is steady and predictable. The scrubbers have enough chemical capacity for another 11 months before they'll need refilling. The water recycling systems occupy an adjacent compartment, processing wastewater through multiple filtration stages until it's cleaner than most groundwater on Earth. Your drinking water was someone's shower water a few days ago, but the purification process is remarkably effective. You verify the filter status, all showing green with plenty of operational life remaining. The physical walkthrough takes you through sections of the ship that are deserted during night cycle. The corridors are lit by emergency lighting only, creating pools of dimness between islands of illumination. Your footsteps echo on the deck plates, and you can hear the ship's systems more clearly here. The subtle groan of the hull, the whisper of air circulation, the distant hum of machinery. You pass through the crew quarters section, noting that all the privacy indicators show red. Everyone is sleeping, or at least in their private spaces. The galley is dark and silent, its automated systems waiting patiently for morning cycle to begin food preparation. There's something peaceful about seeing the ship this way, dormant but not dead, waiting but not inactive. It's like watching a sleeping person breathe, seeing the evidence of life in subtle movements and quiet sounds. The final stop on your physical rounds is the cargo bay access corridor. You don't have authorization to enter the bays themselves, but you can verify that the access systems are functioning properly and that the environmental seals are intact. Bays 1 and 2 show normal status, sealed, pressurized, no alarms. Bay 3 has additional security protocols, biometric locks, electronic keypads, warning signs indicating biosecurity hazards. The door itself is thicker, built to withstand full containment breach, capable of being sealed remotely if something goes wrong inside. You check the door's diagnostic panel, verifying that the seals are holding and that the independent environmental system is functioning properly. Everything shows green. You can hear a faint hum through the thick metal, the environmental circulation system working to maintain those precise 4°C conditions. The manifest display next to the door shows minimal information. Bay 3, xenobiological specimens, Class C quarantine, science officer authorization required for access. Nothing more specific, nothing that would help you understand exactly what research purposes these particular eggs serve. But that's not your concern. Your concern is that the containment systems show green, that the environmental controls are maintaining stable conditions, that the monitoring equipment is functioning properly. All of which are true. You complete your inspection and mark Bay 3 as green in your maintenance log. The systems are working properly, the seals are intact, the environmental controls are maintaining stable conditions. Whatever is in those containment units is being kept in exactly the state that Weyland-Yutani wants it kept. The physical rounds complete, you return to the maintenance bay at 0645 SST. Everything is functioning properly. All systems are green, and the night shift is more than half over. the Torrens continues being the most boring ship in the fleet, and you couldn't be more grateful for that distinction. The communication monitoring station is a secondary console in the maintenance bay, providing access to the ship's various radio channels and data streams. It's not officially part of your duties to monitor communications, but the night shift communications officer is often asleep or otherwise occupied, so the task falls to whoever is manning the maintenance bay. Meanwhile, the Cronus' communications officer is probably fielding a lot more interesting traffic: incident reports, corporate inquiries, insurance claims, updated safety protocols. Your communications feed is considerably more mundane: routine position reports, weather data for the destination colony, and someone's backlogged personal messages finally arriving after months of signal delay. You bring up the standard communication channels, checking the status of routine transmissions. The ship maintains constant contact with the Weyland-Yutani network, exchanging compressed data bursts every few hours. These bursts contain everything from navigational updates to crew messages to corporate directives. The standard commercial traffic channel shows the usual chatter: cargo vessels announcing their positions, mining operations requesting supply deliveries, colony administrators broadcasting requests for various materials. It's the background noise of human expansion into space, the conversation of an interstellar economy. But tonight there's also more specific traffic that you recognize: safety bulletins related to xenobiological transport. Multiple ships are broadcasting updated containment status. Corporate is sending out revised protocol documents. There's a general sense of heightened awareness throughout the fleet. You scan through some of the traffic, picking up fragments. Containment protocols verified and functioning normally. Recommend additional biosecurity training for all personnel handling Class C materials. Incident review board findings to be distributed pending legal review. The language is careful, corporate, designed to acknowledge the Cronus situation without admitting liability or providing too many specifics. It's the vocabulary of damage control, phrases that document caution without admitting to specific dangers. You switch to the corporate newsfeed, looking for official statements about what happened. The public-facing information is predictably bland. The USCSS Cronus experienced a minor containment incident involving biological research materials. The situation was successfully resolved through proper application of safety protocols. One crew member received treatment for minor injuries and has since been released from medical care. Weyland-Yutani maintains the highest standards for biosecurity and continues to review and enhance safety procedures across all operations. One crew member: minor injuries, successfully resolved. The crew rumour mill suggests a rather different story. Something about an egg hatching, something attaching itself to a crew member's face, emergency medical procedures, and a very tense few hours before they manage to, well, the rumours get vague and contradictory at that point. Some say the crew member died, some say they survived but were evacuated, some say the creature was contained, others that it had to be jettisoned into space. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle of all that speculation, and it's probably classified enough that you'll never know the complete story. What you do know is that your eggs are staying frozen, your containment is holding, and your ship is not having any incidents whatsoever. The day's corporate bulletin includes an update to the biosecurity training requirements. All crew members on vessels transporting Class C xenobiological materials must complete an updated certification module within the next 30 days. The training covers recognition of containment breaches, emergency response procedures, and proper use of protective equipment. You make a note to complete the training module during one of your upcoming day-off periods. It will probably be mostly common sense. Don't open containment units without authorization. Notify command immediately if you see anything unusual. Follow evacuation procedures if biosecurity alarms sound, but corporate needs to document that everyone has been trained. The Torrens' science officer has already updated Bay 3's monitoring protocols in response to corporate's recommendations. The containment units are now being checked twice per shift instead of once. The environmental sensors are being calibrated weekly instead of monthly. Additional backup systems have been verified ready, all of which is probably unnecessary given how stable your containment has been, but corporate is nervous and everyone is being extra careful. Better to over-monitor than to have a second incident. The radio channels continue their background murmur, the conversation of a civilization scattered across light years. Most of it is routine, boring, the mundane business of commerce and administration. The Cronus situation has created a temporary spike in biosecurity-related traffic, but even that is mostly routine acknowledgements and status reports. Your monitoring work is exactly as interesting as it should be. Not very, which means everything is working properly and the night shift is progressing normally. At 07:30 SST, you take a break from the monitoring station to simply sit and think. The maintenance bay has a small observation port, a luxury on commercial vessels where space is expensive and viewports are considered unnecessary. But the Torrens is old enough that she was built before the full optimization of internal space. Meanwhile, somewhere on the Cronus, crew members are probably dealing with psychological debriefing, incident reports, and the stress of having experienced something that most commercial spaces never encounter. You're grateful that your most significant stressor tonight is deciding whether to have a second cup of coffee. You dim the internal lights and look out at space. The stars are sharp points of light against absolute blackness, unchanging and eternal. At point 1C, the Torrens is moving fast enough that stellar aberration is just barely visible. The stars ahead appear slightly blue-shifted, while those behind show a faint red shift. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but your eyes have learned to notice the effect after months of watching the void. This is what space travel really is, not the dramatic events that occasionally happen on ships like the Cronus, but long months of routine maintenance while crawling between stars at speeds that seem impossibly fast by human standards, but laughably slow compared to the distances involved. The Torrens has been travelling for 3 years and is still not halfway to its destination. The psychological weight of deep time is one of the challenges that the company psychologist warned about during your pre-flight screening. Humans evolved to think in terms of days and seasons, not years and decades. The knowledge that you're undertaking a 5-year journey can create a dissociation from normal time that some people find disturbing. You've adjusted better than most. The night shift helps, the routine, the solitude, the sense of being outside normal time, even by the standards of space travel. When everyone else is sleeping and you're alone with the ship's systems, time becomes more flexible, more personal. The stars move slowly past the viewport, their positions changing imperceptibly as the ship maintains its trajectory. Somewhere out there, about 18 months away, at current velocity, is your destination colony. Somewhere behind, Earth continues its rotation, seasons changing, while you drift through the dark. You think about the eggs in Bay 3, sealed in their containment units. They've been in stasis for 3 years now. Longer, actually, if you count however long they were stored at Gateway Station before being loaded aboard the Torrens. Frozen time, suspended animation, waiting for whatever purpose corporate has planned. The eggs that caused problems on the Cronus were probably from the same batch. Same collection point, same research program, same containment specifications. The only difference is that the Cronus's environmental controls apparently failed in some way, and yours haven't. A few degrees of temperature difference, a small malfunction in the freezing system, and suddenly you have an incident instead of a routine transport. It makes you appreciate the boring reliability of your own systems. The Torrens is old, but her maintenance has been good. The environmental controls are solid, the monitoring systems are redundant, As long as you keep checking the systems and documenting everything properly, there's no reason for anything to go wrong. The observation port reflects your face back at you, ghostly in the darkness. You look tired. 3 years into a 5-year tour takes its toll, but you're doing okay. The routine is sustainable, the work is manageable, and incidents happen to other ships, not to yours. The stars continue their slow dance, and you continue your vigil, and the Torrens continues its journey through the dark. This is your life now. The hum of electronics, the smell of recycled air, the endless routine of system checks and maintenance logs. Not exciting, but safe. And right now, after hearing about the Cronus, safe sounds pretty good. The ship's computer systems require constant updating, security patches, bug fixes, performance optimizations, new features requested by corporate. The update process is careful and methodical, following strict protocols to ensure that critical systems remain operational throughout the update cycle. Meanwhile, the Cronus's IT staff is probably installing emergency updates to their monitoring systems, patching whatever gaps allowed their containment failure to go unnoticed until it was too late. Your update queue is refreshingly boring. Routine maintenance patches and minor performance improvements. You begin by reviewing the update queue, checking which patches have been cleared by corporate for installation. The list includes 17 updates ranging from trivial bug fixes to significant security improvements. Each update has been tested extensively on ground-based systems before being approved for shipboard installation. The first update is simple, a patch for the environmental monitoring system that improves the precision of temperature readings in cargo bay systems. It's a direct response to the Cronus incident. Corporate wants better data resolution for monitoring xenobiological storage conditions. You schedule the update for installation, setting it to deploy during a maintenance window when the system can be briefly taken offline. The patch downloads from corporate servers and installs without incident. The environmental monitoring system reboots, displays its self-test messages, and returns to normal operation with enhanced monitoring precision. Bay 3's temperature reading now displays to 2 decimal places, 4 points wide to read instead of just 40. It's a cosmetic improvement in some ways, but it provides better data for tracking any temperature drift that might indicate developing problems. The second update is a security improvement for the cargo bay access control systems. Wayland Yutani has identified potential vulnerabilities in the biometric authentication protocols and developed a patch to address them. The update requires careful planning because cargo bay access cannot be completely disabled during installation. You configure the update to install bay by bay, maintaining at least 2 access points at all times. The process takes 40 minutes, during which you monitor the installation carefully, ready to abort if anything goes wrong. But the update completes successfully, and the cargo bay security now has stronger encryption and better resistance to unauthorized access. The remaining updates are similar, minor improvements that individually seem insignificant but collectively enhance the ship's reliability and security. You work through them methodically, testing each one after installation, documenting the results in the maintenance log. One update catches your attention: enhanced logging for biological cargo monitoring. The patch adds additional data collection for containment unit status, creates automated alerts for any deviation from baseline conditions, and improves the frequency of environmental sampling. The timing is obviously related to the Cronus incident. Corporate wants more data, better monitoring, faster alerts. They're trying to ensure that if something starts to go wrong, there will be plenty of warning before it becomes a crisis. You install the update and review the new logging features. Bay 3's monitoring system is now recording significantly more data, power consumption patterns down to the second, atmospheric circulation details, internal temperature fluctuations measured in hundredths of a degree. The granularity has increased substantially. The automated alerts are particularly comprehensive. The system will now notify the science officer immediately if any containment unit shows even minor deviations from expected parameters. The previous version of the monitoring software used much wider tolerance bands and only alerted for major problems. This is corporate being cautious after an incident, probably more cautious than necessary given how stable the Torrens' containment has been, but understandable given the circumstances. The software updates complete at 0847 SST, all systems showing green, all patches installed successfully. The Torrens' computer infrastructure is now slightly more secure, slightly more efficient, and significantly more paranoid about the contents of Bay 3, which is probably appropriate. Better to over-monitor than to underreact. Here the Daily News Digest arrives at 900 SST, a compressed data burst from corporate containing approved information for crew consumption. Meanwhile, the Cronus' crew is probably appearing in classified incident reports and legal reviews, their names attached to case studies about containment procedures. Your morning news is considerably less dramatic. Colony development updates, resource discoveries, and routine corporate announcements. You pull up the digest on your secondary monitor, scrolling through the headlines, while the primary display continues monitoring the ship's systems. The corporate newsfeed leads with optimistic stories about expansion and profitability. New mining operation established on LV Sun 78 reads one headline. Agricultural output increases 12% in Sigma Draconis sector, announces another. The news is relentlessly positive, emphasizing humanity's success in space and the profitable opportunities available through corporate initiatives. The Cronus incident merits only a small article buried in the third section. Containment protocol successfully demonstrates effectiveness. The story spins the incident as proof that safety systems work, emphasizing that the situation was quickly identified and resolved through proper application of established procedures. No mention of how the containment failed in the first place. No details about what happened to the crew member who was injured. No acknowledgement that maybe transporting xenomorph eggs through deep space is inherently dangerous, regardless of how good your protocols are. Just corporate reassurance that everything is fine, systems are working, and there's no cause for concern. You pull up the ship's message queue, checking if any personal communications have arrived. There's one message from your brother on Earth responding to something you sent 3 months ago. The time lag makes real conversation impossible. By the time he reads your message and responds, you've already lived through the experiences you told him about. His message is cheerful, updating you on family news and asking questions about space travel that you've answered before, but that he apparently hasn't received due to message routing delays. There's no mention of any news about the Cronus. Earth is so far from the frontier that colonial incidents take months to become public knowledge, if they ever do. You compose a brief response. Still doing maintenance work, still boring, which is good. Ship is functioning well. Hope you're doing well too. You keep it simple because there's not much else to say that won't take months to receive and respond to. The message queue also contains several updated corporate bulletins. Reminder, all personnel must complete revised biosecurity training module within 30 days. Updated cargo handling protocols. All Class C biological materials now require secondary authorization for any access or inspection. Mandatory system update schedule. All vessels transporting xenobiological materials must install critical monitoring updates within 48 hours of availability. The pattern is clear. Corporate is tightening everything in response to the Cronus incident. More training, more authorization requirements, more monitoring, faster update schedules. They're trying to prevent a second incident through bureaucracy and enhanced procedures, which is probably sensible, even if it means more paperwork for everyone. You file the bulletins for your records and return your attention to the primary systems. The morning news digest has been reviewed, the updates have been noted, and your shift continues its routine progression. Bay 3 continues its stable environmental maintenance. The eggs remain at precisely 4 Waltwiwarkshi, and the Torrens continues being the most boring ship in the fleet. Exactly as it should be. At 0930 SST, you take another break, this time just to sit quietly and experience the ship without any particular task demanding your attention. The maintenance bay at this hour has a particular quality, peaceful but not quite silent, active but not chaotic. Meanwhile, somewhere on the Cronus, crew members are probably very carefully not being quiet, running additional checks, verifying systems multiple times, staying vigilant in ways they maybe weren't before. You're content to maintain your normal level of quiet routine. The hum of the ship's systems creates a baseline of white noise that your brain has learned to filter out, allowing the smaller sounds to emerge. The click and whir of hard drives accessing data, the faint whisper of air circulation through the ventilation ducts, the occasional subtle groan of the hull as temperature differentials cause microscopic expansion and contraction of the superstructure. These sounds are the ship's language, the way the Torrens communicates its status to anyone who knows how to listen. Each sound has meaning, indicates normal function or developing problems. You've learned to read the acoustic environment the way ancient sailors learned to read the wind and waves. The vibration through the deck plates is constant and familiar. The pulse of the FTL engines, the circulation of environmental systems, the routine operation of a technological ecosystem maintaining life in the hostile void. You've become so accustomed to these sensations that you notice them primarily by their absence. When you're off ship, the stillness of planetary gravity feels wrong, incomplete. Bay 3's environmental systems contribute to their own subtle note to the ship's symphony, a slightly higher-pitched hum from the enhanced cooling systems needed to maintain the precise, low temperatures. It's been part of the ship's soundscape for 3 years now, as familiar as any other background noise. You've sometimes wondered about the eggs in those containment units. What do they look like? Are they large or small? Organic-looking or more mechanical? The briefing materials provided only basic information. Xenomorph eggs, parasitic life cycle, requires careful containment, but no images or detailed descriptions. Not that it matters. Your job doesn't require you to know what they look like, only to maintain the systems that keep them contained. The science officer handles the biological aspects. You handle the technical infrastructure. It's a clean division of responsibility that works well until it doesn't, as the Cronus discovered when their technical infrastructure apparently developed a gap that the science officer didn't catch in time. But your infrastructure has no gaps. Your monitoring is thorough. Your documentation is complete. Your systems show green. The maintenance bay is quiet except for the constant background sounds. The displays show their steady data feeds. The coffee maker gurgles occasionally as it maintains the pot you brewed earlier. Time flows smoothly, marked by system check intervals and routine documentation rather than dramatic events. This is the meditative aspect of night shift work. The ability to exist in the present moment, attending to tasks that require focus but not stress, maintaining vigilance without anxiety. It's almost a form of meditation, this careful attention to systems and patterns. The Cronus's crew probably lost this meditative quality after their incident. Once you've had a containment breach, routine monitoring probably carries a different emotional weight. Every sensor reading would be scrutinized with heightened concern. Every small fluctuation would trigger questions. You're grateful that your routine remains unstressed. Bay 3 is boring. The eggs are frozen. The containment is intact. And you can maintain your calm attention to systems that continue working exactly as they should. The silence between things, the gaps in data streams, the pauses between system checks, the quiet moments when nothing requires immediate attention. These are what make the work sustainable. If it were all constant crisis management, you'd burn out quickly, but the long stretches of routine punctuated by small maintenance tasks create a rhythm that's actually quite peaceful. You check the time. 09:47 SST. A little over 2 hours left in your shift, and all systems continue showing green. Boring continues to be beautiful. Emma, the ag tech, stops by the maintenance bay around 1,000 hours with 2 cups of fresh coffee. She's been awake working in the hydroponic gardens, something about the tomato plants needing attention during their optimal growth phase, and she's brought caffeine as justification for taking a break. Meanwhile, the Cronus' crew probably isn't doing a lot of casual socializing right now. Incident reviews and legal debriefings tend to put a damper on friendly coffee breaks. You're grateful that your ship maintains its normal social rhythms. Can't focus on the plants, Emma says, settling into one of the spare chairs. Keep thinking about what happened on the Cronus. Have you heard any details beyond the official corporate statement? You accept the coffee gratefully. Just rumours, nothing I'd call reliable information. The rumour mill says it was a temperature control failure. One of the eggs partially thawed. Something emerged, attached itself to a crew member's face. Emma sips her coffee, her expression troubled. Is that even possible? I thought the whole point of keeping them frozen was that they couldn't develop. Probably an exaggeration, you say, trying to sound reassuring. You know how stories get embellished in the retelling. More likely, it was a minor containment seal issue that got corrected quickly. Corporate wouldn't let ships keep transporting these things if there was serious danger. Emma nods, but doesn't look entirely convinced. I've been growing food for 18 months, and I've learned to pay attention to environmental systems. The power consumption patterns for Bay 3 have always been interesting, more active than you'd expect for simple cold storage. They're maintaining precise atmospheric conditions, not just temperature, you explain. The eggs need specific pressure, specific atmospheric composition, specific everything. It requires more sophisticated environmental control than just keeping things frozen. I guess that makes sense. She shifts the topic, apparently deciding not to dwell on things she can't control. How's your coffee supply holding up? I could trade you some fresh lettuce for a bag of those grounds you've been hoarding. Deal. The synthetic salad in the mess tastes like crunchy sadness. You chat for 20 minutes about nothing particularly important. The ongoing problems with the vending machine on B deck, whether the movie night in the common area will actually happen this week. How many more months until shore leave? Emma's success with getting the cucumber plants to finally produce viable fruit. It's comfortable conversation, the kind that fills the quiet hours without requiring deep thought or emotional energy. Emma finishes her coffee, thanks you for the company, and heads back to attend to her plants. After she leaves, you think about her concern about Bay 3. She's not wrong to be aware of it, not wrong to notice patterns in the environmental data, but awareness without anxiety is the key. You can acknowledge that you're transporting something potentially hazardous while also trusting that the containment protocols are adequate. The Cronus had a failure, but failures are why you have redundant systems, backup protocols, enhanced monitoring. They're why you check everything twice, document everything carefully, maintain constant vigilance. Your ship isn't going to have an incident because your systems are working properly and you're paying attention. It's that simple. You return to your routine system checks, and the night continues its slow progression toward morning. Emma's visit was pleasant, her coffee was good, and the world continues turning regardless of whether you're worrying about xenomorph eggs or not. Bay 3 remains stable, the eggs remain frozen, and life aboard the Torrens continues its ordinary routine. The period between 10:30 and 11:30 SST is often the longest part of night shift, late enough that you've been awake for hours, early enough that your shift isn't close to ending. Meanwhile, this is probably when the Cronus' crew is most carefully monitoring their systems, the time when fatigue could cause mistakes. You're mainly struggling with whether to have another cup of coffee or stick with water. This is when you lean most heavily into routine maintenance tasks, using the familiar work to keep your attention engaged. Tonight's focus is the backup power system's verification, essential but tedious work that requires careful attention to detail. The Torrens has 3 levels of power redundancy. Primary power comes from the ship's reactor core, providing more than adequate capacity for all normal operations. Secondary power comes from massive battery banks that can maintain critical systems for up to 72 hours if the reactor fails. Tertiary power consists of emergency generators that can keep life support and communications running for an additional 48 hours beyond that. You test each system level individually, verifying that the automatic failover switches would engage properly if needed. The tests are simulated. You're not actually cutting primary power, but they're comprehensive enough to give high confidence that the systems would work in a real emergency. The battery banks show excellent health indicators. They're relatively new, replaced during the last major maintenance cycle, and they're maintaining their charge capacity well. Each bank gets tested individually. Disconnect from charging circuit, simulate load, measure voltage drop over time, verify that capacity calculations are accurate. It's methodical work that requires focus but not creativity. Your hands follow practiced procedures, while your mind is free to wander slightly, thinking about home, about shore leave, about what you'll do when this contract is complete. 3 years into a 5-year tour, you're past the halfway point now, which means the return journey has become psychologically real rather than just an abstract future concept. You'll complete this contract, take your accumulated pay, and probably sign up for another tour, because that's what you do when deep space maintenance is your career. Unless incidents like the Cronus situation start becoming common, then you might reconsider whether transporting xenobiological specimens is worth the hazard pay. But that's future thinking. Right now, in this moment, your ship is safe, your systems are reliable, and your backup power verification is proceeding normally. The emergency generators are diesel-fueled units stored in shielded compartments, maintained in ready-to-start condition, but rarely needed. You run their automated test sequence, listening to each generator come online, watching the power output stabilize, verifying that the fuel reserves are adequate. The sound of the generators is different from the usual ship's hum, rougher, more mechanical, a reminder that some technologies remain reliably low-tech even in deep space. Diesel generators have been keeping critical systems running for more than a century, and they'll probably still be used a century from now because they're simple and robust. The tests complete successfully. Your backup power systems are ready to take over if needed, which they won't be, because the primary reactor is functioning perfectly. You document everything in the maintenance log. Backup power verification complete. All systems tested and verified functional. Battery capacity at 98% of rated capacity. Emergency generators started successfully and delivered rated power output. No deficiencies noted. The long night hours continue, filled with these kinds of routine tasks. Not exciting, but essential. Not dramatic, but deeply satisfying in their thoroughness. This is the real work of keeping a starship operational. Careful attention to systems that are working properly, documentation of that proper function, and confidence that if something goes wrong, the backups will work. Bay 3 continues its environmental maintenance in the background, requiring no attention from you beyond noting that its monitoring systems show continued stability. Your shift is approaching its end, and you've maintained the Torrens' perfect record of being the most boring ship in the fleet. One of the most tedious but essential tasks in computer maintenance is verifying that backup systems are actually working. The automated backup procedures run constantly, creating redundant copies of critical data, but automated systems can fail silently, creating the illusion of protection while actually leaving vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, the Cronus's IT staff is probably doing extremely thorough backup verification right now, making sure they have complete records of what happened during their incident. Your backup verification is routine and hopefully unnecessary, but you do it anyway because that's what thoroughness means. You begin the verification process by checking the primary backup servers. The Torrens maintains 3 complete copies of all critical data, one on the primary servers, one on the backup servers in a physically separate location, and one on removable storage that's kept in the emergency locker. The backup process is continuous, with changes being written to backup storage within seconds of occurring on the primary systems. This ensures that even a catastrophic failure of the primary servers would result in minimal data loss, at most a few seconds worth of information. You run test restores from the backup systems, randomly selecting files and confirming that they can be successfully recovered. The restoration process is slower than normal operation, but it works perfectly. Navigation data, life support configurations, cargo manifests, crew records, everything is safely duplicated and recoverable. The removable storage verification is more interesting. These are physical devices, ruggedized solid-state drives designed to survive extreme conditions. They're stored in a shielded emergency locker and updated manually once per shift, creating a snapshot of the ship's systems at regular intervals. You retrieve the current backup drive and connect it to your diagnostic terminal. The drive contains a complete system image from yesterday's day shift, plus incremental backups from subsequent shifts. You verify that all files are present and intact, that the data hasn't been corrupted, that the emergency recovery procedures would actually work if needed. The removable backup serve a specific purpose. If something catastrophic destroys both the primary and secondary servers, fire, impact, sabotage, the removable storage provides one last chance to recover essential data. The drives are designed to survive conditions that would destroy the ship itself, allowing recovery teams to retrieve navigation logs and other critical information, even from wreckage. While you're working with the backup systems, you review the access logs out of habit. The science officer accessed backup files yesterday during day shift, reviewing historical environmental data for Bay 3. Nothing unusual about that. They regularly review cargo monitoring data as part of their duties. The access patterns show thorough review of several months of Bay 3 environmental history, probably in response to corporate's request for detailed documentation following the Cronus incident. The science officer was apparently compiling a comprehensive report demonstrating that the Torrens' containment has been stable and well maintained throughout the journey. Good for them. Better to have that documentation ready proactively rather than scrambling to compile it if corporate demands it. Your backup verification completes successfully. All systems are redundant, all data is protected, all recovery procedures are functional. If the worst happens, the Torrens' critical information will survive even if the ship itself doesn't. Not that you're planning on the worst happening, but being prepared is what separates competent maintenance from lucky maintenance. The time is 11:38 SST. Your shift is approaching its end, and you've completed all your scheduled tasks plus the backup verification that always makes you feel like you've done something particularly responsible. All systems remain green, Bay 3 remains stable, and the Torrens continues its journey toward the colony worlds, carrying its cargo of mining equipment, agricultural supplies, and frozen xenomorph eggs that are behaving exactly as well-contained biological samples should behave, which is to say, boringly, perfect. At 11:45 SST, you're in the final stretch of your shift, performing the last systems check before handoff to the day crew. Meanwhile, the Cronus' maintenance staff is probably approaching their shift transitions with a lot more paperwork and incident review requirements. Your transition will be refreshingly mundane, confirm everything is green, brief the next tech, go get some sleep. You perform a final diagnostic sweep of all major systems, verifying that nothing has changed since your initial checks 8 hours ago. Life support is green, propulsion is green, navigation is green, cargo management is green. The Torrens continues its journey exactly as designed, all systems functioning within normal parameters. The coffee maker has been cleaned and prepared for day shift, fresh grounds measured and ready for brewing. Your personal items have been gathered from around the maintenance bay, the paperback book you've been reading during quiet moments, the coffee mug with the Union logo, the family photo you keep on your desk as a reminder of home. You update the shift log with all relevant observations. System diagnostics completed, all green. Software updates installed successfully. Backup systems verified functional. Physical maintenance rounds completed. Bay 3 monitoring stable. No anomalies. Next scheduled. Maintenance. Server 12 cooling. Fan bearing inspection. The documentation is precise and professional. Exactly what the day shift needs to understand what happened during your watch. Good documentation is one of the most important aspects of maintenance work. When something eventually goes wrong somewhere, logs like these provide the historical context for understanding system behaviour. Janet arrives at 11:52, her usual punctual efficiency. You brief her on the night's non-events, which is to say, you tell her that everything worked perfectly and nothing interesting happened. So basically, a normal night, Janet summarises. Exactly. Bay 3 is still boring. Coffee maker is still working after Marcus's percussive maintenance. Server 12's fan is still making that slightly off sound, but not failing yet. Everything exactly as it should be. Unlike the Cronus, Janet says, pulling up the overnight corporate bulletins on her terminal. There's a new directive here about enhanced containment monitoring. Looks like corporate is requiring twice daily status reports on all xenobiological cargo now. More paperwork for the science officer then, not our department beyond making sure the monitoring systems keep working. True enough. Get some sleep, Chen. You look like you need it. The formal handoff proceeds efficiently. You walk Janet through anything she needs to know, point out the items flagged for attention, verify that she has access to all necessary systems. The transition of responsibility is complete within 15 minutes, right on schedule. At 12 USST exactly, Janet logs into the primary terminal, officially taking control of the maintenance bay. You log out, your shift complete, your duties fulfilled. See you tonight, Janet says, as you head for the door. Same time, same boringness, you reply. The maintenance bay becomes her responsibility now, and you're free to return to your quarters, eat something, and sleep for the next 6 hours before doing it all again. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the fleet, the Cronus is dealing with incident aftermath. But on the Torrens, it's just another shift transition, another handoff, another routine day in deep space, exactly as it should be. The corridor lights are brighter now, adjusted for day cycle as the rest of the crew wakes and begins their routines. You pass several crew members heading to the galley for breakfast, exchanging nods but no conversation. Everyone on the Torrens has learned to respect the difference between day shift energy and night shift fatigue. Meanwhile, the Cronus's corridors are probably filled with very different conversations, incident reviews, safety briefings, nervous speculation about what happens next. Your corridors are peacefully mundane, people getting coffee, complaining about the vending machine, planning their workday. The journey from the maintenance bay to your quarters takes you through several sections of the ship, each with its own character. The crew common area shows signs of last night's movie viewing. Someone left magazines scattered on tables, empty drink containers waiting for the cleaning bot's next pass. The galley is busy with breakfast service, automated systems dispensing reconstituted eggs and synthetic protein. You're not hungry. Night shift workers often find that their appetite doesn't align with the ship's meal schedule. but you grab a piece of fruit from the dispenser and a bottle of water for later. The fruit is real, grown in Emma's hydroponic garden. It's a small apple, slightly irregular, nothing like the perfect specimens produced by Earth's agricultural industry. But it tastes incredible after months of processed food. Crisp, sweet, alive in a way that reconstituted meals never quite achieve. You pass the science lab, its door closed but showing an occupied indicator. Through the small window, you can see the science officer working at their terminal, probably compiling those enhanced containment reports that corporate is now requiring. You're glad that task belongs to them and not to you. The crew quarters section is quieter. Most people either at breakfast or already at their duty stations. You palm the biometric lock on your door, feeling the brief tingle of the scanner before the door slides open with a hydraulic whisper. Your quarters are small but private, 3 meters by 4 meters, containing a bunk, a desk, a storage locker, and a tiny bathroom. By Earth standards, it would be claustrophobic. By space travel standards, it's adequate and significantly better than the shared quarters that lower-ranking crew members endure. You've personalised the space as much as regulations allow. A small shelf holds a few physical books, real paper, luxury items, but valuable for the tactile experience. A photograph of your family is magnetically attached to the wall. A potted plant from Emma's garden occupies the corner of your desk, its green leaves a reminder of living things. The recycled air in your quarters smells faintly of laundry detergent and your own accumulated presence after 18 months of occupation. It's the smell of home now, as much as anything is home when you're 17 light years from Earth. You seal the door and activate the privacy indicator, signalling that you're off duty and don't want to be disturbed. The overhead lights dim automatically to sleep cycle levels, creating a twilight atmosphere. Another shift complete. Another 8 hours of vigilant maintenance successfully executed. The Torrens continues its journey, and you've done your part to keep it running smoothly. Now you can rest. You sit on the edge of your bunk, unlacing your boots with movements that have become automatic after 8 hours on your feet. The boots are designed for comfort during long shifts, but your feet still ache with that particular tiredness that comes from standing on metal deck plates. Meanwhile, the Cronus's crew is probably dealing with very different kinds of fatigue. The stress of incident reviews, the anxiety of wondering if their ship is still safe, the emotional exhaustion of dealing with something that went wrong. Your fatigue is purely physical, the comfortable tiredness of honest work completed. The act of removing your work clothes and changing into sleep clothes is a ritual that helps signal to your body that work is done and rest is permitted. The transition from maintenance tech to off-duty crew member, from responsible vigilance to the permitted vulnerability of sleep. Your muscles are tired but not exhausted. The physical demands of night shift maintenance are moderate, mostly standing and walking, occasionally lifting equipment or climbing access ladders. The fatigue you feel is more mental than physical, the accumulated weight of 8 hours of sustained attention. You stretch, feeling your spine crack in several places, and consider whether to shower before sleep. You decide yes, the water will help you relax, and there's something psychologically satisfying about washing away the recycled air smell and starting your rest period clean. The shower stall is cramped, barely large enough to turn around in, but the water pressure is good and the temperature is consistent. The ship's environmental systems are remarkably reliable, maintaining comfortable conditions despite the extremes of space outside. The water feels good against your skin, washing away 8 hours of sitting at monitors and walking through server rooms. You use minimal soap. Water conservation is still a cultural value, even though the recycling systems make water readily available. 4 minutes exactly. You've internalized the timing, don't even need to check the display anymore. Long enough to get clean, short enough to not be wasteful. Toweling off, you notice again that you've lost weight during your time on the Torrens. Space travel tends to cause slow weight loss, despite adequate caloric intake. You're still healthy, just leaner. The measured portions and limited variety of shipboard food, plus the routine physical activity of your work, have had their effect. You slip into sleep clothes and settle onto your bunk, feeling the mattress conform to your body. The overhead lights have dimmed to near darkness, leaving only the faint glow of emergency lighting and your terminal status display. Your tablet shows several personal messages, but you'll read them after sleep. Right now, your body is insisting that consciousness is optional and rest is mandatory. The ship's systems continue their background hum, barely audible but always present. The vibration of the deck plates, the whisper of air circulation, the distant pulse of the FTL engines. It's the sound of safety, of technological systems maintaining life in the void. Bay 3's environmental systems are maintaining their steady operation somewhere below you, keeping those eggs at exactly 4 terabytes or exactly as they should. B, the science officer will check them during day cycle, corporate will receive their enhanced monitoring reports, and you'll wake in 6 hours to do another shift of routine maintenance. The cycle continues, reliable and predictable, and for now, you can let go of vigilance and simply rest. Sleep doesn't come immediately. Your mind is still running through the events of the shift, reviewing the systems you checked, the patterns you noticed, the routine observations that might be worth remembering. It's a common problem among maintenance workers, the difficulty of transitioning from active problem solving to passive rest. Meanwhile, the Cronus's crew members are probably having even more difficulty sleeping, replaying their incident in their minds, wondering if they missed warning signs, worrying about future shifts. You're mainly thinking about whether Server 12's fan will actually last another month, or if you should order the replacement earlier. You've developed techniques for managing the sleep transition. Breathing exercises that slow your heart rate, progressive muscle relaxation, consciously releasing tension from your feet upward through your body, mental exercises that redirect thoughts away from work toward neutral topics. Tonight you think about shore leave, still months away, but real enough to anticipate. You'll spend time with family, eat food that wasn't reconstituted, walk outside without a spacesuit, feel weather, experience the chaotic unpredictability of planetary life. Then you'll probably get bored and sign up for another deep space tour, because this is what you do, who you've become. The ship's hum continues, constant and soothing once you stop fighting it and allow it to become background. The vibration through the bunk actually helps, a gentle rhythmic sensation, similar enough to natural movement that your body accepts it as safe. You find yourself drifting, your thoughts becoming less focused and more dreamlike. The boundary between waking and sleeping is blurring, and you're aware enough to recognize the transition, but too tired to resist it. Images flash through your mind, the green status indicators on diagnostic displays, the spiral patterns of coffee stirred in a cup, the stars through the observation port, Server 12's slightly off-pitch fan sound. The images blend and flow, losing their sharp edges, becoming part of dream logic. Your last conscious thought is routine and oddly comforting. Everything functioned properly during your shift. All systems showed green. The Torrens continues its journey. Whatever mysteries exist in the universe, whatever dangers other ships are facing, your ship is running smoothly, and your job is done. Now you can rest. Sleep aboard the Torrens is different from sleep on Earth. The constant hum of the ship's systems provides background that your brain learns to incorporate into dreams, creating soundscapes that blend mechanical and organic elements. Your dreams tonight are fragmented, a collage of shift memories and wandering thoughts. You're in the maintenance bay, running diagnostics, but the displays are showing plant growth from Emma's hydroponic garden instead of system status. You're walking through corridors that are simultaneously the ship and your childhood home, the walls blending metal and memory. Meanwhile, the Cronus crew members are probably having very different dreams, if they're sleeping at all. But your unconscious mind is processing a routine shift, finding patterns in ordinary work, consolidating the comfortable familiarity of repetitive tasks. You dream of Server 12, its cooling fans spinning at exactly 3000 RPM, except in the dream, the sound becomes music, each bearing rotation creating a note that combines into something almost melodic. You're conducting the server rack like an orchestra, each system contributing its voice to the ship's symphony. The dream shifts. You're checking Bay 3's door seals, but when you look at the diagnostic panel, it's showing Emma's plant growth charts, temperature and humidity curves that apply equally well to frozen xenomorph eggs and thriving tomato plants. The life support requirements aren't that different, really. Precise environmental control, careful monitoring, attention to detail. Another shift. You're at the observation port watching stars, but they're moving at speeds that make them streak like rain on windows. The stellar aberration becomes extreme, space itself distorting, and you realize you're watching the passage of time rather than the motion of the ship. Years flowing past in seconds, your 5-year contract compressed into a moment of dream time. The dreams aren't nightmares. They don't provoke anxiety or fear. They're just your mind processing the routine work of your life, finding patterns and meaning in the ordinary tasks that fill your days. You dream of the coffee ritual, measuring grounds, waiting for brewing, that first perfect sip. But in the dream, the coffee becomes the ship's fuel, each cup you drink somehow keeping the FTL engines running. It makes perfect sense in dream logic. Caffeine powers both humans and interstellar travel. The dream incorporates the ship's sounds. Ventilation becomes wind. Deck plate vibration becomes heartbeat. The distant groan of the hull becomes something breathing. Your sleeping brain weaves sensory input into narratives that feel significant but remain just out of reach of understanding. Time passes. Your body cycles through sleep stages, processing memories, consolidating learning, maintaining biological rhythms. Your muscles relax completely, your breathing deepens, and the dreams become less vivid and more abstract. The ship continues its journey while you sleep, its systems running automatically, other crew members taking their turns at vigilance. Your consciousness isn't required for the journey to continue. Your shift is done, your responsibilities fulfilled, and the vessel carries on. In the dreamless periods between REM cycles, you experience something close to peace, the simple biological satisfaction of an organism at rest in a safe environment. The Torrens is your home now, as much as anywhere is home for someone who travels between stars. Even in the deepest sleep, some part of your mind remains aware of the ship, listening to its sounds, feeling its movements, maintaining background vigilance that years of training have made automatic. You'll wake instantly if anything changes, if any alarm sounds, if the quality of the vibration shifts. But nothing changes. The ship continues its routine operation, and you continue your routine rest. And the cycle of work and sleep that defines your life aboard the Torrens flows smoothly forward. 6 hours after you fell asleep, your body's internal clock begins the waking process. You don't have an alarm set. After months of night shift work, your circadian rhythms have adjusted to the routine, and you wake naturally at approximately 1800 SST. Meanwhile, the day shift crew has been maintaining the ship through their work hours. The Torrens has continued its journey, systems have been monitored, routine tasks have been completed. The work never stops, just transfers between different people in different shifts. The transition from sleep to wakefulness is gradual. First, there's awareness of the ship's sounds, then awareness of your body on the bunk, then the slow organization of thoughts and memories that constitute full consciousness. You lie still for a moment, allowing the wake-up process to complete naturally. Your quarters are dim, lighting still set to sleep cycle levels. You activate the controls to bring the lights up gradually, giving your eyes time to adjust. The sudden brightness that people often use to force alertness is harsh and counterproductive. Better to allow natural processes to work. You feel reasonably rested. 6 hours of sleep isn't ideal, but it's sufficient when it's quality sleep in a comfortable environment. Your body has adapted to this routine over 18 months, and the pattern has become sustainable. The tablet on your desk shows the time, 18:17 SST. You have nearly 2 hours before you need to report for your next shift. Time enough to eat, shower, attend to personal matters, and mentally prepare for another 8 hours of system monitoring. You check your messages, nothing urgent, a corporate bulletin about the updated training modules, a note from Janet about Server 12's fan. She had the replacement unit arrive on the supply drone and installed it during her shift. One less thing for you to worry about. The crew message board shows its usual mix of activity. Someone is organising a chess tournament. Emma is offering fresh herbs from the garden. There's a discussion thread about the Cronus incident, mostly speculation and rumour, since corporate hasn't released detailed information. You skim through the Cronus thread out of curiosity. Theories range from plausible environmental control malfunction to wildly speculative corporate conspiracy, sabotage, alien intelligence. The truth is probably mundane. A system failed, protocols weren't quite adequate, something went wrong. Just bad luck maybe? Or a small maintenance issue that cascaded into a larger problem. It's a reminder that vigilance matters, that routine maintenance isn't just bureaucratic box checking. The boring work you do every shift is what prevents incidents. The careful attention to small details, the thorough documentation, the routine verification of backup systems, all of it matters because the alternative is what happened to the Cronus. You shower again, the transition from sleep to work requiring the same cleansing ritual as the transition from work to sleep. The water helps wake you fully, washing away the lingering grogginess. Dressed in clean work clothes, you head to the galley for an early dinner that's technically breakfast for your schedule. The galley is less crowded during the transition period, and you're able to eat in relative quiet. The food is adequate, reconstituted protein with synthesized vegetables, enriched with vitamins. It doesn't taste bad, just neutral and functional. Fuel for your body, rather than an experience to savor. While you eat, you review technical documentation on your tablet, reading about the new environmental monitoring protocols that corporate has implemented. Enhanced logging, tighter tolerances, more frequent status reports. All sensible responses to the Cronus situation. You finish your meal and return your tray, then head back to your quarters for final preparations. The routine is comforting in its predictability. Wake, eat, prepare, work, sleep, repeat. The cycle continues, consuming days and weeks and months, slowly counting down your contract. 17 months left until this tour is complete. 17 months of night shifts and system monitoring and routine maintenance. Then shore leave, family time, and probably another contract, because this is what you do. The work continues, the ship continues, and you continue, one shift at a time. At 19:45 SST, you arrive at the maintenance bay for the transition from day shift to night shift. Janet is wrapping up her shift, completing final checks and documentation. Meanwhile, somewhere on the Cronus, their shift transitions are probably very formal affairs now. Enhanced briefing requirements, additional documentation, multiple sign-offs. Your transition is refreshingly straightforward. Janet tells you what happened, you verify the systems look good, responsibility transfers. Evening, Chen, Janet greets you. Quiet day. Installed that replacement fan in Server 12. Runs much smoother now. Updated the biosecurity training module, like corporate required. Science officer did their enhanced Bay 3 inspection. Everything nominal. Oh, and Marcus says the coffee maker is making that gurgling sound again. Of course it is. That thing has character. More like it has issues, but it still makes coffee, so... She shrugs philosophically. You pull up the day's logs while Janet finishes her documentation. Server 12 shows green with the new fan installed. Bay 3 maintains its stable environmental conditions. Boroint to Uruguay, atmospheric containment active, no anomalies, all other systems showing normal operation. The science officer's inspection notes are thorough, documenting that the xenomorph eggs remain in stasis. The containment units are functioning perfectly, and there are no signs of any of the issues that affected the Cronus. Corporate should be satisfied with that level of documentation. Any new news about the Cronus, you ask? Nothing official, but the rumour mill says corporate is considering policy changes for xenobiological transport. Maybe more stringent containment requirements, maybe additional crew training, maybe changes to what gets transported in the first place. Janet shrugs. Above our pay grade. We just maintain the systems. True enough. Go get some rest. The formal handoff proceeds efficiently. Janet walks you through anything noteworthy, confirms that all documentation is current, and verifies that you're logged in and ready to take over. By 20 USST, the transition is complete, and she's heading off duty. And just like that, it's your shift again. The familiar routine, the same displays showing the same systems, the endless cycle of monitoring and maintenance that defines your role aboard the Torrens. You perform your initial diagnostic sweep, checking all major systems. Everything shows green. Life support nominal, propulsion nominal, navigation nominal, cargo management nominal. Bay 3 continues its stable maintenance of frozen biological samples that are doing exactly what frozen samples should do. Nothing. The maintenance bay settles into its familiar night cycle quiet. The hum of electronics, the whisper of air circulation, the comfortable isolation of being the only person awake in this section of the ship. You pour your first coffee of the shift, using Marcus's percussive maintenance technique on the coffee maker when it starts making that gurgling sound. A firm tap on the side panel, and it settles back into normal operation. Very technical. Another shift begins. Another 8 hours of routine maintenance, system monitoring, and careful attention to details that keep the Torrens running smoothly, exactly as it should be. At 21:30 SST, you're reviewing the environmental monitoring data, and everything shows that beautiful, boring green colour that means systems are working properly. Meanwhile, the Cronus's monitoring displays probably show a lot more amber warnings and red alerts as their crew works through enhanced inspection protocols. Your displays are peacefully, wonderfully green. There's something deeply satisfying about a shift where nothing breaks, nothing alarms, and nothing requires emergency intervention. It's not exciting, but excitement is overrated when you're maintaining critical systems in deep space. The left display wall shows life support data, oxygen levels steady, CO2 levels normal, temperature and humidity within optimal ranges. The crew is sleeping, breathing, existing, all supported by systems that are working exactly as designed. The center display shows propulsion and navigation. The ship maintains its trajectory through space. FTL engines purring along at their steady quantum fluctuation. Fuel reserves adequate. Course corrections minimal. You're on track to reach your destination in approximately 18 months, give or take a few days depending on final approach calculations. The right display shows cargo management, all 3 bays maintaining their specified conditions. Bay 1's mining equipment stays warm and dry. Bay 2's agricultural supplies stay cool and slightly humid. Bay 3's xenomorph eggs stay frozen at precisely 4 Toktuikakutibi, atmospheric pressure stable, containment intact. Nothing interesting is happening in any of the cargo bays. The eggs are frozen, the equipment is stored, the supplies are preserved, everything exactly as it should be for materials in transit. You think about the contrast between your ship and the Cronus. Same cargo type, same containment protocols, different outcomes. The difference probably comes down to small things, a maintenance task delayed, a sensor slightly miscalibrated, an alarm threshold set slightly wrong. Small differences that cascaded into larger problems. Your ship doesn't have those small differences because you check everything carefully, document everything thoroughly, and don't let small issues slide. Server 12's fan got replaced when it started making off-pitch sounds, not after it failed. Environmental sensors get calibrated on schedule, not when someone remembers. Backup systems get tested regularly, not just assumed to work. This is what boring routine maintenance provides, the confidence that systems will work when needed because they're being maintained properly when not needed. Bay 3's monitoring systems show no anomalies whatsoever. The power consumption is exactly what's expected. The atmospheric composition is precisely correct. The temperature hasn't varied by even 1/100th of a degree in the past 8 hours. Boring. Beautiful. Exactly correct. You make your routine log entry. All systems nominal. Bay 3 containment stable. No anomalies detected. Environmental monitoring within all specified tolerances. The same entry you've been making for months. The same entry you'll probably make for the next 18 months until the cargo gets delivered and becomes someone else's responsibility. Meanwhile, somewhere in the universe, interesting things are probably happening. Ships making first contact with alien civilizations, explorers discovering new worlds, heroes doing heroic things. And here on the Torrens, your biggest accomplishment tonight is that every system you're responsible for continues working exactly as it's supposed to. Not exciting, but deeply, satisfyingly right. The green lights continue their steady reassurance, and you continue your vigilant monitoring, and the night progresses with peaceful routine. The hours between 2200 and 100 are the deepest part of night shift, when everyone else aboard is asleep, when the ship feels most isolated from human civilization, when time becomes more fluid and contemplative. Meanwhile, the Cronus's night shift crew is probably extra vigilant during these hours, knowing that their incident happened when attention might have wavered. Your vigilance is routine, comfortable, unstressed by recent trauma. This is when you settle most completely into the meditative rhythm of the work. Your hands perform practice tasks, checking displays, running diagnostics, updating logs, while your mind is free to wander within the boundaries of professional attention. You think about the nature of deep space work, how it simultaneously matters enormously, and not at all. If you fail at your job, people could die, life support could fail, navigation could be wrong, critical systems could malfunction. But if you succeed at your job, nothing happens. Success is invisible, measured by the absence of problems rather than the presence of achievements. It's a particular kind of satisfaction that comes from preventive maintenance. You replaced Server 12's fan before it failed, so no one knows that you prevented a server crash. You verify backup systems regularly, so when they're never needed, no one realizes you ensured they would have worked. The Cronus's crew probably has a much clearer sense of their value right now. They responded to an emergency, contained a problem, prevented what might have been a worse outcome. Their work was visible and dramatic. Your work is invisible and boring. And that's exactly how it should be. Bay 3's monitoring systems continue their steady operation, tracking environmental conditions that haven't changed in any meaningful way for months. The eggs remain frozen, the containment remains sealed. The biosecurity protocols remain active, but unnecessary because nothing is trying to escape. You perform another physical walkthrough, checking server room temperatures, verifying that cooling systems are operating efficiently, noting minor maintenance items for future attention. Everything is working properly, which means you're doing your job properly. The ship's sounds are familiar friends now. The hum of ventilation, the click of hard drives, the subtle groan of the hull. You've learned to hear the ship's health in these sounds, to detect variations that might indicate developing problems. Tonight the ship sounds healthy. The rhythm is steady, The mechanical symphony is in tune, and you're comfortable in your role as night watchman. The long watch continues, hours flowing into each other, marked by routine tasks and careful attention rather than dramatic events. This is the real nature of your work: sustained vigilance, careful documentation, routine verification that everything is working exactly as it should. Not exciting, not dramatic, just competent execution of necessary work. Perfect. At 0230 SST, you're monitoring the overnight communication traffic, and the pattern is becoming clear. Corporate is very carefully managing the narrative around the Cronus incident. Meanwhile, the Cronus's crew is probably prohibited from discussing what actually happened, bound by legal agreements and corporate communications policies. The official story is being carefully crafted, while the real story remains classified. You're reading between the lines of corporate bulletins and finding more questions than answers. The traffic logs show increased secure communications between corporate headquarters and ships carrying xenobiological materials. Status reports are being requested more frequently. Safety protocols are being reviewed and enhanced. Insurance underwriters are apparently asking questions that corporate is working to answer, all of which suggests that the Cronus incident was more significant than the official minor containment event description would indicate. But that's corporate business. Above your pay grade and outside your area of responsibility, your business is maintaining computer systems, which you're doing effectively. The rest is someone else's problem. You pull up your personal messages, finally reading the family communications that arrived during the past few days. Your brother's latest message is cheerful, talking about his new job, asking questions about space travel, mentioning that your parents are doing well. There's no mention of anything about the Cronus or xenobiological research or corporate incidents. Earth is so far from the colonial frontier that news takes months to arrive, and most corporate incidents never make it to public awareness anyway. You compose a brief reply. Still maintaining systems, still boring work. Ship continues running well. Looking forward to shore leave eventually. You keep it simple because detailed explanations of your work don't translate well into messages, and your family doesn't need to know about containment incidents on sister ships. The communication monitoring continues: routine traffic, scheduled updates, personal messages for other crew members. The background conversation of a civilization that has spread across light years but remains connected by patient signals traveling at the ultimate speed limit. You think about the philosophical nature of deep space communication. When you send a message home, it will take 47 hours to arrive. If they respond immediately, you won't receive their answer for another 47 hours. Conversations happen in extreme slow motion, stretched across days and weeks, each exchange separated by the unbridgeable reality of light speed delay. It makes relationships strange and abstract. You're maintaining connections with people you won't see for years, sharing experiences that will be ancient history by the time responses arrive, performing the ritual of communication more for psychological comfort than practical exchange of information. But humans need connection, even attenuated connection, across vast distances. So you write messages that take months to receive responses, and you read messages responding to thoughts you've forgotten having, and somehow it's enough to maintain the emotional bonds that tie you to home. Bay 3's systems continue their stable operation in the background of your thoughts. The eggs remain frozen, the containment remains intact. Whatever happened on the Cronus is not happening here. The communications monitoring wraps up with routine documentation, all scheduled transmissions completed, all received messages logged and distributed. No emergency traffic, no anomalies detected, just another quiet night in deep space, maintaining connections across impossible distances. At 0332 SST, you're deep into the quiet heart of night shift, and the routine has become almost meditative. Your hands perform tasks automatically, while your mind achieves a state of relaxed awareness that's particular to this work. Meanwhile, the Cronus's crew is probably approaching this time of night with heightened vigilance, checking systems multiple times, staying alert for any sign of developing problems. Your vigilance is comfortable, routine, unstressed. You run another full diagnostic sweep, the third of your shift. It's more than technically required, but thoroughness is its own reward. Every system reports green. Every subsystem shows nominal operation. Every monitor displays exactly what it should display. Bay 3 continues its environmental maintenance with mechanical precision. Temperature 4.0 atmospheric pressure correct. Containment integrity verified. The xenomorph eggs are doing exactly what well-frozen biological samples do, which is absolutely nothing worth noting. The science officers' enhanced monitoring protocols are generating more data than before, but the data is reassuringly boring. Every measurement confirms that the containment is working perfectly. Every trend line is flat and stable. Every alert threshold remains comfortably distant from actual readings. You update your maintenance log with another routine entry. 0332 hours, all systems nominal, additional diagnostic sweep completed, no anomalies detected, Bay 3 containment stable and within all specified parameters. The repetition is purposeful. If something ever does go wrong, these logs will show a clear pattern of proper operation leading up to the event. The documentation establishes baseline, demonstrates attention, and provides historical context. But nothing is going to go wrong on the Torrens because the systems are working properly. And you're paying attention. You take a break to stretch and walk through the maintenance bay, just moving your body after hours of sitting at monitors. The stretching helps prevent the stiffness that comes from sustained sitting, keeps blood flowing, maintains alertness. The coffee maker gurgles in the corner, maintaining the pot you brewed hours ago. The coffee's probably terrible by now, burnt and bitter from sitting too long on the heating element. But night shift workers learn to appreciate coffee regardless of quality. It's the ritual and caffeine that matter, not the taste. You pour a cup anyway, adding extra sugar to mask the burnt flavour. It's not good coffee, but it's warm and caffeinated and familiar. Sometimes that's enough. The ship continues its journey through space at 30,000 kilometers per second, impossibly fast by human standards, frustratingly slow by cosmic standards. At this rate, you're covering about 108 million kilometers every hour, which sounds impressive until you remember that the nearest star system is 40 trillion kilometers away. Space is big, really big, and crossing it requires patience, routine, and sustained attention to boring details. Bay 3's monitoring systems tick away, recording data that shows no variation, documenting stability that requires no intervention. The eggs remain frozen, the containment remains sealed, and the night continues its peaceful progression. You return to your workstation, ready for the final hours of your shift. The routine continues, comfortable and sustainable, exactly as it should be. At Euro 600 SST, the ship begins its gradual transition from night cycle to day cycle. The corridor lighting starts to brighten incrementally, signalling that crew members should begin waking. Meanwhile, the Cronus probably has very regimented shift transitions now, with enhanced handoff procedures and additional documentation requirements. Your transition will be straightforward. Brief Janet. Confirm everything is green, go to sleep. You perform your final comprehensive system check, verifying that all monitored parameters are within normal ranges. This is the most thorough review of your shift, ensuring that you're handing off a ship that's in exactly the condition it should be. Life support systems, green across the board, oxygen at 20.9%, CO2 at 0.04%, temperature and humidity optimal. The crew will wake to comfortable, breathable air because the environmental systems worked perfectly all night. Propulsion systems, green and stable. The FTL engines maintained their steady operation. Fuel consumption matched predictions, and the ship stayed precisely on course. You'll arrive at your destination when scheduled because the navigation systems are functioning properly. Cargo management. All bays maintaining specified conditions. Bay 1's equipment stays preserved, Bay 2's supplies stay protected, and Bay 3's eggs stay frozen at exactly 4 degrees Celsius. Nothing has changed because nothing needed to change. You compile your shift summary for Janet. Shift completed without incident. All systems operated within normal parameters. No maintenance items require immediate attention. Server 12's new fan is performing well. Bay 3 containment remains stable with no anomalies. Next recommended action: routine calibration of environmental sensors in Section 7, scheduled for next week. The documentation is complete, thorough, professional. Everything Janet needs to continue the work, everything the day shift supervisor needs to review, everything that corporate might want to audit. Good documentation is one of the skills that separates adequate maintenance workers from good ones. You clean up your workstation, organizing the papers, clearing the coffee cups, wiping down the keyboards. The maintenance bay should be ready for Janet when she arrives, neat and professional. The final minutes of night shift have a particular quality: the satisfaction of work completed, the anticipation of rest, the comfortable transition from responsibility to relaxation. You've maintained vigilance for 8 hours, kept the ship running smoothly, and now you can hand off to day shift with confidence that everything is in good order. Janet arrives at 7:50, 10 minutes early as usual. You brief her on the quiet night, which is to say, you tell her that nothing interesting happened, which is exactly what should have happened. So basically a perfect night shift, Janet summarizes. Exactly. Bay 3 is still boring, systems are still green, and the Cronus's problems remain theirs and not ours. The way it should be, Janet agrees, settling into her workstation. The handoff proceeds smoothly. At 08 we SST precisely. Janet logs in and you log out. Your shift is officially complete. The Torrens is her responsibility now, and you're free to return to quarters and sleep. Another shift done. Another 8 hours of routine maintenance successfully executed. The cycle continues, and the ship continues, and you continue, one shift at a time. The walk back to your quarters is familiar now, a path you've travelled hundreds of times. The corridors are brightening as day cycle progresses, crew members emerging from quarters and heading to the galley for breakfast. Meanwhile, somewhere on the Cronus, crew members are probably still processing their incident, still dealing with enhanced protocols, still managing the aftermath. Your corridor is peacefully routine, people getting coffee, planning their day, maintaining the normal rhythms of ship life. You pass through the common area, where the early risers are checking the schedule for the day's activities. Someone has posted a reminder about the chess tournament. Emma has updated the board with information about fresh vegetables available from the garden. The normal social life of a ship continues its normal patterns. The galley is starting to fill with breakfast service. You grab a protein bar and another piece of fruit. Emma's garden is producing well, but you're mainly interested in getting to your quarters and sleeping. The science officer is in the galley, getting coffee. They nod at you in passing. Quiet night? Very quiet. Bay 3 is still perfectly stable. Your enhanced monitoring data shows no anomalies whatsoever. Good. Corporate should be satisfied with that. Thank you for keeping everything running smoothly. It's a simple acknowledgement, but it feels good. Your work is noticed, even when that work is primarily making sure nothing happens. You continue to your quarters, palm the lock, enter your small private space. The lights are still dimmed from when you left for shift. The bed looks inviting after 8 hours on your feet. You perform the evening, or rather, morning routine. Remove work clothes, shower briefly, change into sleep clothes. The ritual helps signal to your body that work is done and rest is permitted. Your quarters are quiet except for the ship's ever-present background hum. The environmental systems maintain comfortable temperature and humidity. The life support ensures breathable air, and you're free to sleep because other crew members are awake and maintaining vigilance. The work never stops, it just transfers between different people. The ship is always monitored, always maintained, always tended. Your 8 hours of work have ended, but someone else's 8 hours have begun. You check your tablet one last time. No urgent messages, no emergency alerts, no corporate bulletins that require immediate attention. Just the routine traffic of a ship operating normally, which is perfect. You set the tablet aside and lie down on your bunk. The mattress conforms to your body, the lights dim to near darkness, and your body begins its shutdown sequence towards sleep. Another shift complete. Another day of maintaining the ordinary routines that keep the Torrens functioning. Another cycle in the endless rhythm of deep space life. And tomorrow night, or rather tonight in about 12 hours, you'll do it all again. The cycle continues, the work continues, and you continue, one shift at a time, counting down the months until your contract is complete. As you lie in your bunk, waiting for sleep to come, you think about the past 8 hours and find yourself feeling grateful. Grateful for the boring routine, for the systems that work properly, for the shift where nothing happened. Meanwhile, the Cronus' crew members probably have very different feelings about their recent shifts. Stress, anxiety, hypervigilance. You're feeling peaceful satisfaction with work competently done. There's a particular satisfaction that comes from maintaining systems that work perfectly. It's not dramatic or exciting, but it's deeply meaningful. You're the reason the crew woke up to breathable air. You're the reason the ship stayed on course. You're the reason the environmental controls maintained comfortable conditions all night. Your work is invisible because it's successful. The best maintenance is the maintenance that prevents problems before they occur, that keeps systems running so smoothly that no one notices they could have failed. The Cronus incident is a reminder that this work matters, that careful attention to routine tasks isn't bureaucratic box checking, it's the foundation of safety in deep space. That boring shifts are a gift, not a burden. Your ship carries the same type of cargo that caused problems elsewhere. The same xenomorph eggs, the same containment requirements, the same potential dangers. The only difference is that your systems are working properly because you're maintaining them properly. That's not luck, that's competence. That's the value of routine maintenance work performed carefully, thoroughly, and with sustained attention. You think about the eggs in Bay 3, frozen in their containment units. They've been stable for 3 years now. They'll probably remain stable for the next 18 months until delivery. And that stability is a direct result of systems working properly, which is a direct result of maintenance work done well. Not exciting, not dramatic, just competent execution of necessary work. And honestly, after hearing about what happened on the Cronus, boring sounds absolutely perfect. Your body's relaxing now, the physical tension of the shift fading. Your mind is slowing, thoughts becoming less focused, the boundary between waking and sleeping beginning to blur. You're grateful for the boring routine, grateful for the systems that work, grateful for the peaceful nights where nothing happens, grateful that your ship is not the Cronus, that your shift is not managing an emergency, that your main concern is whether the coffee maker will need percussive maintenance again. These are good problems to have. This is a good life to live. The ship continues its journey, carrying you towards sleep and toward your destination, one routine shift at a time. Sleep is close now. Your body has completed its transition from work to rest. Your mind has processed the events of your shift, and you're ready to let go of consciousness. Meanwhile, throughout the ship, the work continues. Janet is monitoring the systems you just handed off. The engineering crew is performing their routine maintenance. The science officer is reviewing their enhanced Bay 3 documentation. The captain is managing overall operations, everyone performing their role in the complex dance of keeping a starship functioning. And you've done your part. 8 hours of careful attention, routine maintenance, and sustained vigilance. The Torrens is a little safer because you checked everything carefully. The crew is a little more secure because you verified the backup systems. The journey continues smoothly because you maintain the computer infrastructure that supports everything else. This is the satisfaction of maintenance work, not dramatic saves or heroic interventions, but the steady, reliable, boring execution of necessary tasks. The dignity of ordinary work performed with competence and care. Bay 3's environmental systems will continue their operation while you sleep. The eggs will remain frozen, the containment will remain sealed, and when you wake for your next shift, everything will still be exactly as it should be. Not because of luck or chance, but because of routine maintenance work performed by competent people who care about doing their jobs properly. Your breathing is slowing now, becoming deeper and more regular. Your muscles have released their tension. Your mind is drifting into that twilight state between waking and sleeping. You've earned this rest, you've completed your work, maintained your vigilance, and done your part to keep the ship running smoothly. The stars continue their slow dance outside the hull. The ship continues its journey through the void, and you're allowed to rest secure in the knowledge that your work was done well. Sleep comes gently, naturally, a reward for honest work completed. Your consciousness fades, your body relaxes completely, and you drift into the peaceful rest that you've earned. The ship will continue without your awareness. The work will be maintained by others, and when you wake, you'll do it all again. Another shift, another cycle, another rotation in the endless rhythm of deep space maintenance work. But for now, you can rest. The systems are green, the containment is stable, the ship continues its journey, and you too may rest. With the shift logs updated and all systems showing green, you lean back in your chair one last time before heading to quarters. The maintenance bay is quiet around you, filled with the familiar hum of computers and life support, the comfortable sounds of a ship that's working exactly as it should. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the fleet, other ships are dealing with other problems. But on the Torrens, everything is stable, routine, and peacefully boring. You too may rest now. The stars will continue their ancient patterns across the void. The ship will continue its patient journey toward the colony worlds. The eggs in Bay 3 will remain frozen in their containment, requiring nothing more than the steady operation of environmental systems that you've maintained throughout your shift. And tomorrow night, or rather tonight in a few short hours, you'll return to the maintenance bay and do it all again, one routine shift at a time. May your dreams be as stable as your diagnostic readings, and may peace settle over your mind like the green glow of systems operating within normal parameters. Good night.